Hi guys, welcome to our channel. So since this is our first ever YouTube video, we're going to have a little introduction. So there's actually two of us working on this channel. My name is Chris, and on the other side,
Jay over here hosting too. On this channel, we're going to talk about celebrity gossips, rise and fall, and some trendy topics. And without wasting your time, we're going to kick it right off with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez.
So unless you're living under a rock, you're probably familiar with the Megan and Tory drama. Little disclaimer, we're not here to discuss every evidence there was in the recent trial or say who's right and who's wrong. We're actually here to see why the situation is interesting, why it raises so much interest, and what we can get away from it.
So without further ado, let's see both of the backgrounds, starting with Megan. Megan's real name is Megan Jovan Ruth Pitt. She was born on February 15th, 1995 in San Antonio and raised in Houston, Texas. Fun fact, her mother, Holly Thomas, was also a rapper who went by the stage name of Hollywood. When Megan was an infant, instead of putting her daughter in a daycare, she would take her to the recording studio. That's how she was immersed into music from a tender age. Her father was locked up for the first 8 years of her life, but it didn't stop them from being the closest until he died as she was only 15. Megan began writing raps at 14 and her mother never had a clue of her writing skills. When she eventually showed her mother her rapping skills at 18, she required that her daughter wait until she was 21 to pursue rapping as a career, which she did. She garnered fans by posting her freestyles on her Instagram page while back in college. Her name, The Stallion, came from her imposing figure. Around mid-2016, she released her first single, Like a Stallion, followed by mixtapes Rich Ratchet and Megan Mix. Her single Last Week in Houston, Texas from her 2017 EP Make It Hot became her most successful single during this time. But as if she wasn't allowed to taste happiness for too long, her mother died quickly when she started gaining fame. Megan found out that focusing on her career helped her with her grief. The work ethics she had paid off. Megan released Fever in May 2019, which reached number 10 on Billboard 200. She came up with the term Hot Girl Summer, which led to a song of the same name featuring Nicki Minaj and Ty Dolla $ign. The tune went platinum and dominated the summer of 2019. The following year, Megan released Savage. Beyonce, Megan's idol and a fellow Houston native, joined her for a remix of Savage that topped the charts, and that's when she got her international recognition.
Now on to Tory Lanez. Daystar Shemuel Shua Peterson is a Canadian rapper and singer born in July 27, 1992 in Toronto. The family later moved to Miami, Florida. Following the death of his mother when he was only 11 years old, his father's job as a missionary caused them to move a lot, and they finally settled in Atlanta, Georgia. There he met his friend Hakeem, who gave him the nickname Lanez as a comment on Tory's thrill-sucking tendencies that sometimes saw him walking around the street not looking for traffic and playing in the lanes. In 2006, he was sent to live with his cousin in New York. Due to his behavior issues, he was then forced to move to Toronto with his grandmother. Even there in Toronto, her grandmother refused to take care of him. He was on his own at age 15 already. He said, quotes, "I ended up moving downtown with these 3 dudes that I didn't even really know. It was every man for himself." Explaining that that's what made him a man, having to fend for himself and being in a situation where there is no dad, no grandma, and no mom to help him at a tender age. He then once again started rapping and dropped out the 10th grade to perform songs at the outdoor concerts. After working on mixtapes that he exposed on YouTube, he got the chance to perform live thanks to Sean Kingston, who was an established rapper at the time. This boosted Tory's confidence to work on several more mixtapes. Lanez's debut album, I Told You from 2016, included the single Say It and Love, which peaked at number 23 and 19 on the Billboard Hot 100, respectively. In 2018, Lanez released his second and third studio albums and the 4th peaked at number 2 on the US Billboard 200. Tory has always been known for his eccentric behavior both on and off the stage. During a March 2018 concert in Texas, he had a conflict with the security personnel. Moved by this, he asked his fans to quote, F-ish up. His fans then caused a riot on the spot. This led to the organizers almost filing a lawsuit against Tory.
Which leads us to the core of the subject, which obviously is the shooting. If you don't know what happened that night of 2020, let's make a quick rundown of the story. So Kylie hosted a party that Megan, her ex-best friend Kelsey, and Tory attended. Tension started when Tory was flirty with Kylie. The thing is, Tory had something going on with Megan while being in a relationship with Kelsey. Everybody was very drunk. We are talking about bottles of champagne, whiskey, cognac and all. Megan, Kelsey and Tory ended up living in the same car where an argument started. Kelsey was reproaching Tory to be flirty with Kylie. In the heat of the argument, Tory told Kelsey that he and Megan had a thing behind her back, which led to a crazy fight between Kelsey and Megan. To our knowledge, his reason for telling Kelsey about the fling he had with Megan behind her back was just to push the negative attention he was having at that moment and direct it to both ladies so that they can knock heads. Megan ended up leaving the car upset when she got shot and was taken to the hospital by the police, where she had surgery to remove the fragments of bullet on her foot.
And what follows is really interesting because let's keep in mind that we were in the middle of a crazy season for Black people with George Floyd's murder. So Megan chose not to say the truth to the police for Tory's safety and her own, saying that it was just glass cut. Days after the shooting, Megan posted on her Instagram account that she had, quote, suffered gunshot wounds that required surgery but did not provide more details. But on the other hand, Tory goes on a mission to tell everybody that he didn't shoot her, to the point where he was writing songs and doing interviews about that story. That's when she started to defend herself, exposing the situation to the public and even addressing it in a song called Shots Fired. She obviously filed a complaint against him.
On the other hand, Lanez was officially charged in October 2020 with 2 felony counts. 1 count of assault with a semi-automatic weapon and 1 count of carrying an unregistered and loaded weapon. According to the charges, the two were driving down Hollywood when an argument broke through. Eventually, when the car stopped, Megan got out and Tory allegedly fired several shots and she got hit in her feet. In January 2022, Lanez pleaded not guilty to all charges. After breaking the restraining order and his Twitter rants, his bail was gradually increased to $350,000. On the 6th of December, a 3rd felony added to the list, which is discharging a firearm with gross negligence. At this point, he was facing deportation. On the trial, a lot of things happened. First of all, Kelsey, who was a huge key on this and who had testified that Tory shot Megan, displaying every details not long after the incident in 2020, decided to play the reverse Uno card. So she said she didn't remember much of what happened that night and that it might be because of the postpartum. Another key witness was Megan's bodyguard, who literally disappeared to later announce that he was in Qatar working. He only appeared at the end of the trial. But 2 witnesses living nearby corroborated that they indeed heard 5 shots and screams from afar. On the 23rd of December, Lane was found guilty of all 3 charges, facing up to 22 years in prison and deportation back to Canada. Although he showed a poker face at the announce of the verdict, his dad exploded outside the courtroom, calling the attorney evil and was going out on Jay-Z and Beyonce. He later on said he was considering an appeal.
It's very interesting to acknowledge the reaction of a lot of people that was just to dismiss what happened and to call her a liar. Some even said she didn't get shot, she was just seeking for attention. Even Drake had a diss song discrediting her side of the story. 50 Cent also laughed at her, saying, quote, "Now I don't believe she had to think about her answer, shaking my head. All this ish is crazy." When interviewed by Gayle King, people reacted as if we were watching a Netflix saga, which it kind of looked like one because of all the turnarounds. But what a lot of us forgot is that they're a real person behind it all. And others felt passionately connected with all the situation because it could face any of us. It's safe to say that we all know a Megan, or some of us was once in her shoes. Finding herself in a toxic situation but still lying to protect the other person while dealing with her own emotions and all the media harassment. On the other hand, Tory had a lot of support, enabling his toxic traits. Everybody was focused on the sexual relationship Tory had with both ladies. Do you guys think that it goes further than that? Comment down in the section below. And in the trials, when everybody was expecting the evidences to come out and the witnesses to talk about who shot Megan, a lot of gossip came out instead, which added up to the story being very juicy and a snack for a lunch break discussion. This story became so crazy that it was hard to believe, and with so many eyes on it, people started speculating, which led up to the whole thing being very messy. But at least a lot of people realized the sad reality of this story after the trial ended, when all the evidences came out from Tory and Kelsey's phone call and from the video of Megan crying in the emergency car. This is just a few amongst other evidences.
So what can we take out of this whole messy situation? Don't believe everything you see on social media, because a lot of stories can be made up. Also guys, pay close attention to who you surround yourself with. It's easy to recognize certain toxic patterns on people's behavior, and Tory was a perfect example of that. He is way too entitled, doesn't like to be held accountable for his actions, and seems to be still dealing with unhealed wounds from his childhood. And then he pours it on others in a very negative way. Talking about childhood wounds, it's something that Megan has in common with him, because she dealt with a lot of losses, starting with her father's. She later on made a lot of mistakes too while fighting with her demons. So one last thing I would like to say to you guys is that it's very important to heal our childhood traumas and learn to make peace from the past, because it can have a lot of consequences in our adult life.
So that is it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what's your thoughts on this video, and don't forget to comment below what was the craziest part of this whole story for you. Love you guys. Bye from Chris
and Jay.